audience joining us online. I'm Captain Randall Packard, spelled R-A-N-D-A-L-L-P-A-C-K-A-R-D. I'm Executive Officer to Chief Andrews. We're here today to discuss a multi-agency operation led by the United States Marshals Service, Operation Washout. Behind you, you'll see representatives of the various agencies that were involved in this operation, including the Durham Police Department's Organized Crime Division, United States Marshals Service, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, North Carolina Department of Public Safety, and the Durham County Sheriff's Office. In a few moments, we'll have remarks from United States Marshal for the Middle District of North Carolina, Steve Gladden, Durham Police Chief Patrice Andrews, and Durham County Sheriff Clarence Burkhead. After the speakers, we'll have time for questions. We do ask that those questions be pertaining to Operation Washout. Thank you. And now, Marshal Gladden.
Thank you. For over 233 years, the United States Marshals have had a primary mission of identifying violent criminals and bringing them to justice. And that's what we do. We're pretty well the experts in this, but we don't do it alone. We never have done it alone. We depend on our state and local partners, either to give them assistance, but more often they're giving us assistance. So it's a team effort. There is no federal, there is no state, there is no local separation. The advantage in things like Operation Washout is we do have the unique authority to deputize local and state law enforcement officers under our authority to leave their jurisdiction to find people that are wanted on outstanding violent crime charges and to return them to the local community to stand those charges. And that's what we do. And that's what Operation Washout is all about. Through the Carolinas Regional Fugitive Task Force, which is a fairly new operation in North Carolina and South Carolina, which is a permanent type task force that deputizes local law enforcement officers on a limited basis to exercise not federal authority so much, but to travel outside of their limited jurisdiction in order to bring people back to the local community to face those charges. So that's what Operation Washout and what the typical day-to-day operations of the Carolina Regional Fugitive Task Force is all about. I appreciate all of the extra effort that was put into this limited Operation Washout. Appreciate the cooperation that we have from our normal partners on a day-to-day basis and with ones that we added for this particular operation. You'll be getting the statistics of the numbers of people that were actually captured and brought back. So I'll leave it to the next. We'll be available for questions afterwards.
So good morning to everyone. So excellent words that were just said here. I will add, the men and women of the Durham Police Department, we value the longstanding relationships with all of our federal partners. We have been so fortunate to be able to have federal relationships for years and years, and that has been beneficial to the city of Durham and our entire community. The Durham Police Department's participation in Operation Washout is just a part of an example of our continued commitment to engage in collaborative efforts aimed at removing folks from our community who have demonstrated time and time again their unwillingness to be productive and law-abiding members of our community. I do want to, at this time, take just a moment of personal privilege, if you'll allow me. I want to thank my officers. I want to thank them for working what seemed to be endless hours during this operation, and they yet still were able to maintain their regular workload, and that was just tremendous. They sacrificed time with their families, and some of them actually missed some very personal moments that they'll never get back. It's a part of the work, we understand, but truly, 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 I owe them a debt of gratitude. So my hope is that through partnerships like these, that we will continue to make Durham and our surrounding jurisdictions a safer place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Good morning. Clarence Burkhead, Durham County Sheriff. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Andrews, Marshal Gladden. And let me just remind everyone that the name of this operation, this joint multi-agency operation, was Operation Washout. The bottom line is that we're all standing here together so that law enforcement, both federal and state, can make a difference in our neighborhood, to make our neighborhoods as safe as possible. This is what it's going to take, and this is what we've been saying and doing over the years as I've been sheriff. To have these partnerships with both local, state, and federal partners is outstanding. To have the regional we have with our neighboring jurisdictions is outstanding, and that's the kind of effort it's going to take to make Durham safer. As the chief said, to identify those individuals who have demonstrated that they're not willing to play by our rules, they're not willing to conform to the norms of this wonderful society we call Durham. So it is our job to identify them, apprehend them, and bring them to justice. As Marshal Gladden said, bring them back here so they can be held accountable for their deeds. You all have heard me say it time and time again, we cannot do this alone. The results of Operation Washout demonstrate when we work together, the differences that we can make in our community and beyond. I'm grateful for these partnerships, grateful for the opportunity. The Durham County Sheriff's Office stands poised to work alongside these professionals to make Durham County as safe as possible for all of its residents. Thank you.
We'll now open it up for any questions that you all may have.
Sarah Kruger with, thank you. Sarah Kruger with WRAL. I was hoping to get some more specifics about the operation, like what you all were targeting, when this operation concluded or how long the duration was, and exactly where and how far did you all travel to obtain these suspects?
I'm going to refer to Commander Thompson, Commander of the U.S. Marshals Carolinas Regional Fugitive.
Great, and I have a lot of questions.
To your question, you say, how long was it?
I was kind of a multi question. I can repeat it if you want, but just more specifics about what the operation was targeting, like what kind of offenses you all were targeting, when the operation ran, and how far you traveled to detain these suspects.
The operation ran from September 19th through September the 30th. It's typically roughly about 7 days. We target probably the most violent that we think we work together with our partners for them to identify the people that they would want to target, I guess you would say. And through that, we got, 7 homicides in the, I'm sorry, So during the arrest, it was 7 homicides, 9 robberies, assaults. All of those were the offenses that we targeted, weapons offenses and all that. So.
I have more questions and I still have the mic, but if anyone else.
Okay.
Joseph Holloway, CBS 17. Will one of you be able to answer, how do you, obviously you guys are protecting and serving every day, but when you're doing an operation like this, what changes? I imagine that you just heighten that effort even more.
That is correct. This is stuff we do on a day-to-day basis, whether you're with the U.S. Marshals, whether you're with ATF, whether you're the sheriff or the Durham County Police Department. This is stuff we do every day. The only difference in this with Operation Washout, and this has been done all over the country. And I've been at this job for over 30-something years, and we do it periodically. It's everybody sit back, take a step back, identify who the problem people are, who are the most violent. And with that comes funding. And funding is important. So we do get different appropriations that I can spend to give the Durham County Sheriff's Office, to give the police department. Limited funds, very limited, but to handle overtime and all that, but to put more of a concentrated effort in this. And who do we decide who we're targeting? And I know targeting is considered a bad word, but it's not, because not only do we know who the problem people are, the community knows who the problem people are. And the difference is these are people that are wanted on outstanding warrants. There is a court-authorized order for their arrest, not somebody that's a suspect. These are people that are wanted to answer charges. So we can add a little bit of the funding. We can add our federal resources. We can bring in people, the subject matter experts, such as ATF, in on this for a limited operation. It's a little different from our normal operations because we do put a concentrated effort on specific troublemakers, specific people that are wanted on outstanding charges.
Obviously, we know that these are people involved with very violent crimes, but were there any other outstanding trends that you noticed with the people you're arresting?
No more than normal. No more than every day-to-day business. Yes, there is a trend. Most of them are known individuals, known to commit violent crime. Perhaps they've done it once or twice before. It's kind of, I hate to use a fishing analogy, but I doubt very many of these people that we were seeking were unknown to the law enforcement or the community as being an issue.
Thank you. And I think this may end up being a question for Chief Andrews, but we can see, you mentioned, the importance of deputizing local law enforcement to travel elsewhere. So I'm wondering if I can get a sense of how big a deal that is. Like, is it often that there is a person wanted in a crime here in Durham who is outside the jurisdiction, and what kind of issues that creates?
Well, we'll say that the Durham Police Department, I'll let the chief answer your question more directly, but members of the Durham Police Department is part of the Carolinas Regional Fugitive Task Force permanently. So we do have some of her officers that are full-time devoted to fugitive apprehension, and they are sworn in by the U.S. Marshals Service to be able to travel outside of their jurisdiction, limited purposes, again, to apprehend people that are wanted in Durham County. Same with Sheriff Burkhead. If there is an individual that is outside of his jurisdiction, where his deputies can arrest them, picks up the phone and calls. We can go anywhere, and we do. Of course, we have to work between, state laws and things like that, and we're experts in that. We know every state law and every jurisdiction and what we have to go through in the legal process to make this occur outside of federal law. And we do that. We have the authority to do that, and we do that on a common basis. Some agencies that are members of the Carolinas Fugitive Task Force, it's kind of a permanent thing. The other sheriffs or chiefs can call us on a case-by-case basis, and we'll be more than happy to oblige. So, Chief.
So I'll kind of comment on this just from a old dog perspective, old drug dog. When I was here previously working and doing drug work, one of the things that we looked forward to, those of us that weren't task force officers, was being able to be sworn in for operations such as this. This is something that Durham has done for as long as I can remember. And what it really does is it focuses the efforts that we don't normally or aren't normally able to focus upon because of staffing or because of workload by our task force officers. So we have task force officers that are cross-sworn, that are Durham police officers, but are cross-sworn in respective bureaus, whether it's ATF, DEA, FBI, right? This just extends that reach and allows us to go out and put more staffing and cast a wider net in order to be able to find these individuals that have repeatedly caused problems, that now have outstanding violent warrants, and really be able to go out and seek them out. And so officers look forward to being able to do this. I think it's a great experience for them, but it also introduces them to a different level of law enforcement. And so for us, it's tremendously beneficial in a selfish kind of way. But for our entire community, it's beneficial because you really do see a difference once they're removed. I hope that answers. Okay.
And now that these individuals are off the streets, do you all have confidence that the district attorney's office will keep them off the streets and judges will keep them off the streets?
I'll let the elected officials.
Certainly, that's not up to us. Our job as law enforcement is to, as everyone said, is to identify and apprehend and really put a case together that gives the DA's office the best possibility for a successful prosecution. That's our job. And we will continue to do it, whether the prosecution is successful or not. We also have a great relationship with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Middle District. Sandra Harrison lended her support. So if we can't prosecute on the state level, or we, for some reason, do not prosecute on the state level, we have an option to take some of these cases federal. And to the jurisdiction question, crime has no boundaries. You've heard me say it before. The Middle District is vast, and I already have a relationship with Gifford County Sheriff, Alamance County Sheriff, Orange County Sheriff's Office, where we see the same people that live right here in Durham or have an address in Greensboro. And so they're constantly traveling up in the 85, 95, 40, and 70 corridor. So it makes sense for us when we have the funds, as Marshal Gladden mentioned, when we have those additional resources and the assistance of our federal partners, for us to expand our net, expand our jurisdiction, so we can get those individuals and bring them to justice. So that's what we do. Thank you.
Chief Andrews, I'd like you to expand a little bit more on what you just said earlier about you can tell that the streets are already safer. What are you seeing, and have you even heard from people in communities saying they feel safer?
So I think it's kind of what we've been seeing progressively as we've started to identify individuals during this operation and also outside of, and we've seen an increase in our cases being adopted federally. There's always a sigh of relief. Sometimes you don't hear about it, but sometimes you do get the feedback from certain community members that just simply say thank you, because they know that this person was causing, a lot of the problems. Can I say that the reduction in violent crime that we have seen is solely in part to these efforts? No, I can't say that. I won't say that, because I know that that's a collaborative effort. That's the community. That's all of us, right? And that's so many more cogs to that wheel than are what present in this room. But I know that has been done here certainly is impactful to our community. And I think, yep.
Kind of going off of that, just to talk about how significant, 59 arrests, 7 of them for homicide, just talk about the significance of that and what that does for a community, for families that have been waiting for those arrests. Talk about the significance.
I certainly could never, and congratulations also. Congratulations, I've followed your story. Congratulations. I certainly would never, ever have the audacity to even say that I understand how families that have been affected by violent crime, how they are feeling. But my hope is that at least knowing that the person that had been identified as the person that had done this crime starts to help the healing process a little bit, maybe starts closing that chapter so we can move forward, towards hopefully bringing the case to a conviction and ultimately that closure. We know we could never bring their loved one back, but this certainly it goes a long way in helping in that healing process.
And did any of the arrests stand out as particularly significant, and could you detail those for any, cases we may have all heard about?
I think all of them were, right? Every homicide, every violent crime, they're all significant in their own way, because those folks that are left out on the street, that's one more person that has the opportunity to continue to reoffend the longer that they are free. Especially after they've demonstrated a propensity for violence.
Special thanks to our partners with the State of North Carolina Department of Public Safety, which works with us on a daily basis, not just task force, but in our day-to-day operations. They're one of our #1 partners, and I hope we're a reliable partner for them as well, especially the Special Investigations Unit with them. They know these people far better than we do, and they are instrumental not only in our success. Another one, of all the arrests made, and on a day-by-day basis, things are being looked at for potential federal prosecution. This is something the U.S. Marshals Service doesn't necessarily do our own, but our sister agency and partner in all of our enforcement endeavors is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which are the experts in dealing with violent crime and gun-related crimes. So if you'd like to say a few, put you on the spot.
My name is Benny Mims. I am the special agent in charge for the North Carolina, South Carolina area. Like I say, this is all about partnerships. So here, ATF is one of those agencies. Our main mission is to combat violent crime. And so this is a great opportunity to go after offenders that obviously have warrants out for their already arrest for a violent act. And most of the time, those individuals are still conducting those violent acts as we approach them or in possession of a firearm. And so it's a great opportunity for ATF to really combat those individuals and arrest those individuals. So we're happy to be a partnership. And so that's kind of what we do, combat violent crime. So.
I would add is I'm just glad to work with everybody here. We do a little special thing with Department of Public Safety, and we are hiding our intelligence with all the offenders. that are in the Department of Public Safety in our prisons and probation. So we do have a lot of information, and it works out with all the agencies we're working with.
Can you quantify, you said you received special funding for this. Is there any way to quantify how much special funding you guys received for this operation? And I'm assuming it's all federal funding? Okay.
The exact numbers I don't have. What we generally cover in these situations, and Commander Thompson can elaborate on this, but since I'm the one that controls the budgets. Generally, we will cover overtime that officers that are attached to this task force, it occurs, and out of extraordinary expenses, if there is anything, which usually there isn't, but the exact number is actually minimal from our day-to-day operations. But we do typically fund for task force operations. The permanent ones will cover certain expenses of the departments. But generally, whether it's the Durham Police Department or the Sheriff's Office, they cover their own salaries and expenses. So this is somewhat of a burden on them. It is, but it's a necessary burden to do what we have to do. Well, we'll pick up some slack, whatever we can, extraordinary expenses, but those exact figures I don't have. Perhaps Commander Thompson, I'm not sure if the audit's ready. All of these things are audited when we're done, and that's his job, not mine. So.
I would just say that one of the things we do provide the funding for overtime for our partners. Also, the people that sworn in, we do provide equipment, from life-saving equipment, from tourniquets to med kits, those things like that. We also provide training. That's a huge thing, getting everybody on the same page, basically, to where if we're going to be working with you for these 6-7 days, I mean, I know it says the dates on there seems like, 10 to 13 days, but this all was done in roughly 6 to 7 days, this number. So in those days, there's usually training, a couple of days of training, just getting together, getting everybody familiar with each other. So those are some of the investments that we put into this, because the goal is for everybody to go home safe. So.
Are there any last questions? If not, thank you to all of our law enforcement partners, local, state, federal, that came out. Thank you all for coming out, and that will conclude this press conference.